Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is January 31st. On this day in 1982, 29-year-old Kathie Durst, the wife of real estate heir Robert Durst, disappeared under deeply suspicious circumstances. For over 4 decades, her case has remained one of the most perplexing mysteries in true crime. Though her body has never been found, her disappearance became the catalyst for investigations that linked Robert Durst to a string of other crimes, including murder. Today, we'll delve into the timeline of Kathie's disappearance, the suspicions surrounding her husband, Robert Durst, and the shocking developments that have unfolded in the years since. Let's get started. Kathleen Kathie McCormick Durst was born on June 15, 1952 in New York City. She was the youngest of 5 children in a close-knit Catholic family. Growing up, Kathie was ambitious and deeply caring. She dreamed of helping others, and this drive eventually led her to pursue a career in healthcare. After earning her nursing degree, she enrolled in medical school with plans on becoming a pediatrician. In 1971, Kathie's life took a glamorous turn when she met Robert Durst, the eldest son of the powerful Durst real estate family. 12 years her senior, Robert was charming, wealthy, and full of confidence. Their whirlwind romance led to marriage 2 years later. From the outside, they appeared to be the epitome of a golden couple, splitting their time between a Manhattan penthouse and a lakeside cottage in South Salem, New York. But as Kathie's friends and family would later recount, life with Robert wasn't as idyllic as it seemed. He was controlling, manipulative, and at times abusive. Kathie confided in her sister, Mary McCormick Hughes, that she felt trapped in the relationship. Mary later said, quote, "She told me she wanted out, but she wasn't sure how to leave him," end quote. Despite her fears, Kathie focused on finishing medical school, determined to build a future on her own terms. We don't know everything that happened on January 31st, 1982, but here's what we do know. Earlier that day, Kathie attended a dinner party in Newton, Connecticut. Attendees later recalled that she seemed nervous and distracted. Robert had called several times, pressuring her to leave early. At around 7:30, Kathie told her friends that she had to go because she wanted to avoid another fight with her husband. According to Robert's account, Kathie arrived at their South Salem home where the couple did argue. He claimed that he then drove her to the Katona train station so that she could return to their Manhattan apartment. Later that night, he said he spoke to Kathie on the phone and she said that she was in the city. But this version of events quickly unraveled. Building staff at their Manhattan apartment reported that they did not see Kathie arrive that night. When Kathie failed to show up for medical school classes the next day, her family knew that something was terribly wrong. Her close friend, Eleanor Schwenk, said, quote, "Kathie was always in touch. For her to just disappear without a word, it didn't make sense," end quote. Kathie's family wasted no time in reporting her missing. Robert, on the other hand, waited several days before filing his own report, a delay that, as you can imagine, raised eyebrows. Kathie's sister Mary later recalled, quote, "He seemed oddly detached, almost like he wasn't concerned at all," end quote. When police questioned Robert, his statements were inconsistent. He initially insisted that Kathie had boarded the train, but later admitted that he wasn't sure if she actually got on. Investigators also learned that he had cleaned their South Salem home and discarded several of Kathie's belongings shortly after she vanished. Behavior that struck detectives as highly suspicious. Friends of Kathie painted a grim picture of her relationship with Robert. Gilberta Gibb Berman, a close confidant, revealed that Kathie had told her about the abuse, saying, quote, She said she was afraid of him. She even told me, if anything happens to me, look at Bob, end quote. Despite these revelations and a good deal of circumstantial evidence, investigators struggled to build a strong case against Robert. The lack of a body or clear physical evidence kept them from making an arrest for years. In 2000, nearly 2 decades after Kathie's disappearance, the case took a dramatic turn. Susan Berman, one of Robert's closest friends, was found murdered in her Los Angeles home. Authorities believed that Susan held key information about Kathie's case. According to prosecutors, Robert killed Susan to keep her from cooperating with investigators. Evidence suggested that Susan had worked with Robert to cover up Kathie's disappearance. Friends of Susan recalled her saying, quote, "I know what happened to Kathie. I helped Bob deal with it," end quote. Her death marked a new chapter in the investigation into Kathie's disappearance. Robert's notoriety grew in 2001 when he was arrested in Galveston, Texas, for the murder of his neighbor, Morris Black. This entire situation was as bizarre as it was gruesome. Durst had been living in disguise as a mute woman in his apartment in Galveston when he killed Morris Black. Durst admitted to the crime, but claimed that the killing was in self-defense. Despite the fact that Durst also dismembered Morris Black, a jury acquitted him of murder. This acquittal fueled public fascination and frustration over Robert Durst's ability to escape justice. In 2015, the HBO documentary The Jinx: The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst reignited public interest in Kathie's case. The series meticulously pieced together evidence of Robert's involvement in multiple crimes. But the most shocking moment came in the final episode when Robert, unaware that his mic was still on, muttered to himself, quote, "What the hell did I do? Kill them all, of course," end quote. While this moment was not admissible in court, it certainly convicted him in the court of public opinion. Shortly after the documentary aired, authorities filed formal charges against him for the murder of Susan Berman and reopened their investigation into Kathie's disappearance. Then, in 2021, nearly 40 years after Kathie went missing, Robert Durst was charged with her murder. Prosecutors alleged that he killed Kathie during a fight in their South Salem home and later disposed of her body. They also claimed that Susan Berman helped him cover up the crime. But ultimately, Robert Durst would never have to answer for Kathie's death. In January 2022, he died in prison while serving a life sentence for Susan Berman's murder. His death brought an abrupt end to the legal proceedings surrounding Kathie's disappearance. For Kathie's family, the lack of a trial and the absence of her body leave many painful questions unanswered. Kathie's disappearance helped to bring to light systemic issues in handling missing persons cases, especially those involving domestic violence. Her sister Mary continues to advocate for awareness, saying, quote, "Kathie's story is bigger than our family. It's about every victim silenced by fear or power," end quote. Although Robert Durst was eventually charged with Kathie's murder, his death means that there will never be any true resolution to her case. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to join me tomorrow as we unravel another significant event in true crime history. In the meantime, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!